It's time now for Echols at 8 with Michael Echols. Michael tackles topics that affect your family and community, such as the state of healthcare, health and wellness, as well as what's happening in Washington today. And now, Echols at 8 with your host, Michael Echols.
And good morning to you. You're tuned in live to Echols at 8 as we bring you the latest and greatest from the steps of the Louisiana legislature and the Echols at 8 studios in Baton Rouge. This week, middle of the Louisiana legislative session 2024. Bills are moving and lots of things happening. We'll brief you on that later in the show today. Do want to thank our listeners from around the great state of Louisiana, our friends in western Louisiana, KWLA 103.1 FM, our friends in eastern Louisiana, 104.7 The Gator, of course, the home station, Talk 540, 105.7 FM, and our friends there at KMLB.com. This morning, we'll jump right in and get over to the culture side of the house as Louisiana bears down this week on many storms. The waters are rising, but we're going to keep on singing our song. And on to join us with that this morning is our very good friend and frequent commentator here on the show, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, hailing from Plaquemine Parish. LT, welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you, my friend. It's raining here in Covington today.
Well, it's rain all across Louisiana this week, and hopefully folks are going to survive that as some of these storms are pretty severe. But speaking of rising tides and ships afloat and tourism in Louisiana, some bright days ahead based on some of the things that happened. I want to recap. We had a crime session you and I have talked about for years, the absolute failure in criminal protection or criminal enforcement in the New Orleans area, which is the calling card for the state of Louisiana. But some of those bills, this last legislative session, the special session passing to hold criminals more accountable. How does that shake out for what you're hearing in the convention business and the other things in the New Orleans market?
Well, we've been touting it to everyone we're talking about booking events. Absolutely, it was a big relief knowing that we're going to start keeping some of these criminals behind bars, knowing that the Super Bowl's coming this year. We got to applaud the legislature for the work y'all have done, and also the governor for leaning forward and putting that state police unit in the French Quarter. We still got a lot of work to do, but it's a great start in making that city safe, and the other cities around Louisiana that continue to release these criminals over and over again. You know, I remember speaking to the commander of the 8th District before he left in frustration and went to work in Alaska. He had arrested a 17-year-old 61 times, and until he beat a lady within an inch of her life and locked in the trunk for dead, never spent any time in jail. And if he was arrested 61 times, imagine how many crimes he committed he wasn't arrested for. So that's one of the major problems, and keeping those people behind bars will surely put a big dent in the crime problem we have in Louisiana.
Well, certainly a path forward to kind of fix some of those historical problems, and hopefully we can get that back under control and get business rolling again. Speaking of business, conventions, events, other things happening around the state, I know you got a big one coming up in May in North Louisiana. Give us a flavor of what's happening there.
Yeah, for the first time ever, we're going to be hosting the Louisiana Seafood Cook-Off in Monroe this year. Every year we had it in Lake Charles, Lafayette, New Orleans, and picked the king and queen of seafood. And time again, many of the great chefs from North Louisiana can't take a couple days off to make that trip and compete. So hopefully we'll get a good slate of great chefs from North Louisiana competing in Monroe for the king and queen of seafood. And then the winner will, of course, compete in the National Restaurant Show held in August in New Orleans. Last year, Alabama won that competition. Hopefully this year we'll bring that crown back to Louisiana. And we're excited. With so many great chefs across North Louisiana, it gives us a chance to really highlight their talents, their restaurants, and there's more to food in Louisiana than just New Orleans. And it gives us a great opportunity to highlight all those great restaurants and places to eat in North Louisiana.
Hey, speaking of, I was listening to some resolutions this week, and yesterday the Restaurant Association making their voices heard at the Capitol, and just the sheer number of jobs and economic development. I don't know if people really understand the mass and the actual value that brings to the state, but kind of dollarize that for us. The food and beverage industry is a big deal.
Well, between the seafood industry, the farmers in Louisiana and the restaurants, and all those great fresh products that really make Louisiana cuisine special, it's billions. You can't well, there is a price on it. I don't have it in front of me, but that's why we've been fighting so hard to protect the seafood industry and all the crawfish farmers and all the products in Louisiana. We have a bill to move the inspection of imported seafood from the health department over to the Seafood Promotion Board. Last year we had 2,700 violations. Not one person got fined or penalized. So by moving it under the people that make a living in that industry, we'll catch those cheaters and fine them. People that are mislabeling seafood as domestic seafood, but it's imported and you don't know where this stuff is grown, chock full of antibiotics. So you need to know what you're eating. And we ask people to ask before you eat and demand Louisiana seafood. So this will be a big start in enforcing those people that are importing seafood and mislabeling it as Louisiana seafood when it's not. And it gives a chance to really clean up that industry a little bit and protect our Louisiana seafood farmers and fishermen.
Well, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the balancing act. I know for us conservatives having to vote on some of these bills to increase fees for this protection, while at the same time reducing and eliminating barriers on other things. It's kind of it feels odd sometimes, but there is some value to trying to do this to ensure our farmers have a valid crop here and are not getting pillaged by China.
Right. Well, I know there was some people wanted to put a percentage. That would really discourage some of the big distributors if they were getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines, and we were not in favor of that. But a fair first, second, third offense fine, that money can be used to promote and support the local fishermen and crawfish farmers as a deterrent from those people cheating. So you're right. I think it's a fair balance, not to hurt business, but to punish those that are not following the law and misleading the public. So I think we've worked all that out. The legislators did a great job at getting rid of some of those things that would have really crippled some of the big distributors. And so I think it's worked out. The Restaurant Association waited heavy on that, as did some of the distributors. So I think it's all worked out as it usually does. Just takes a lot of dialogue back and forth.
A lot of dialogue, a lot of things happening there. Folks, we're on the line today with Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser as we discuss jobs, tourism, economic development, all the great things happening in Louisiana. You got questions this morning? We got answers. 800-259-1440. You can give us a call, or locally at 318-324-1500. Or go to KMLB.com to listen live. You're listening to Echols at 8. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser.
Oh, we'll be back with a whole lot more. You're listening to News Talk 540 and Echols at 8 with your host, Michael Echols.
You've got a friend in the title business, a loyal friend who's always there. You've got a friend who understands your need for excellence and care. Protecting your interests, tenacious, fast, and fair. Bulldog Title Insurance. When you need us, we'll be there.
Hey, I'm Reba McIntyre. In life, you'll hear a lot of people tell you that you can do anything you want. I'm here to tell you that's true. Since I was a little girl, I dreamed of becoming a successful singer and entertainer. It took a lot of hard work, dedication, and perseverance to find my success, but it was worth it. I never gave up on my dreams. Remember, you can never have a dream come true until you've had a dream. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
My son Ian was diagnosed with a brain tumor at the age of 16 months. The outlook was pretty rough. I mean, it was, we had no hope until St. Jude rescued us. I mean, they saved him. To this date, we are 12 years into this journey, and from day one, we've never once seen a bill. It gave us the peace of mind to know that we're there with our son and we're gonna beat cancer together. Now, he is doing really, really well. He's alive because of what St. Jude has done. He's here because of the doctors who came before, their blood, their sweat, their tears, the knowledge accumulated and shared, with everyone else around the world. This is how we get rid of this, how we help kids beat cancer all over. It's the future.
Together, we will make cures possible for every child everywhere. Learn more at stjude.org.
It's time now for Echols at 8 with Michael Echols. Michael tackles topics that affect your family and community, such as the state of healthcare, health and wellness, as well as what's happening in Washington today. And now, Echols at 8 with your host, Michael Echols.
Hey, folks, we're back. You're tuned in live to Echols at 8 as we broadcast from Baton Rouge in the Echols at 8 studios. This morning on the line with Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, discussing both legislative instruments that are moving through the state, also events and happenings around the state. Coming up, Love Your Boot, the week, and the boot being Louisiana. We're trying to keep our heads above water right now. But, Billy, what's going on with Love Your Boot week, and what can we expect around Louisiana?
Well, 2 years ago, Michael, y'all moved Keep Louisiana Beautiful at my request under my office. That year, we had about 40 groups clean up during Love the Boot Week. Last year, 547 events for the first time ever in all 64 parishes, over 12,000 volunteers. We picked up 313 tons of litter. That's good and bad news. It means people are getting involved, but it also means we've got a very dirty state. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a bill this year to ask for a little bit more money to clean up litter on the front end. We're going to model states like Tennessee that have done it the right way, and with education, litter pickup, finding, writing tickets, putting out receptacles where they don't have them, and all the things we need to do. But if we spend a little more money on the front end, last year we spent $100 million cleaning up Louisiana, and it still wasn't very clean. A lot of that money we found through DOTD was paid people to pick up litter that admitted they never picked up litter. That's got to change. DOTD needs to fix our road bridges. We need to remove them from doing things like litter and give those things to local government to do. They'll do it better. They'll monitor it, make sure their areas are clean. So we're modeling other states that have done it successfully, and we've all got to pitch in. April 20th through the 28th is Love the Boot Week, but you don't need to do it just that week. You can now go to your library and check out Tongs Invest and go clean up with your family, get some good exercise. We've got hundreds of families doing that every weekend. And you pick up litter for a day, and you're 90% less likely to ever litter again when you get out there and see what's on the roadway. So we're well on our way. We got a lot of work still to do, but this is something we're going to keep our foot on the gas until we have a clean Louisiana.
So some of the grants that are out there, I know you have a lot of municipalities that tune in, and we want to give them all the resources they can get, but you've got greener ground grants, you got beautification grants, healthy community grants, all these different things that are sitting out there. One, how does your department manage that? Two, how do people get to that information?
At keeplouisianabeautiful.org. You can go to that if you want to sign up for Love the Boot Week. It's lovetheboot.org, but keeplouisianabeautiful.org. We actually went out to the sheriffs and said, what do you need? And they said, well, if we had a van, we could bring work release out there. So we purchased 8 vans for our sheriffs, and they're out there weekly now helping us clean up. And we've got some great sheriffs that are really leaning forward and making a difference. And we give out garbage cans for downtown area, decorative garbage cans. We're now giving out garbage cans on an angle where you've got a place to put it where you can safely pull over and throw it out your window. Most people miss the can, but it keeps it off the highway. Anything we can do to encourage. We're also asking every business to sign up on our site to agree to put garbage cans back in your parking lot and clean up your parking lot and the highway in front of your business. If every business did that, it would be a big dent in litter. I think Cracker Barrel is the only restaurant that religiously has garbage cans all over their parking lot. They clean up in the morning and the evening, and you never see trash in Cracker Barrel's parking lot. We need every business to do that, every strip mall. put garbage cans back in the parking lot and keep them empty. And that'll put a big dent in the litter problem.
A lot of this starts at early ages, and your department is working with educators around the state to provide resources for this plus historical resources for Louisiana. Since this week we've got several schools that are out due to chaotic weather. Uniquely Louisiana, a resource and tool. What is it, and how can teachers and others use it?
Yeah, well, we've got a Uniquely Louisiana. We got homeworklouisiana.com, where you can go online, learn about unique things to do in Louisiana. LouisianaHomework.com, you can go get tutored if you're falling behind. And then we're also just got a new program approved through the Betsy Board, an educational program that will be taught in the schools about litter. And then we're going to be launching Leaders Against Litter. We're getting the governor on down involved, asking every elected official to go speak in the schools about all the great things you're doing in your community, but also tell kids about litter. If we can change the culture of getting kids not to litter, we asking every coach at baseball, football, make your kids clean up the field and around the parking lot after practice. If we teach them at a young age, we can take a big dent out of spending $100 million every year to clean up Louisiana and better spend that money on other things.
Definitely resources need to go to other places, and teaching the kids is a big part of it. I saw just a week or two ago you were elected the chair of the Aerospace States Association. All right, so we're getting high up in the air now. What does this organization do, and what resources do they bring Louisiana?
Well, I joined about 4 years ago and quickly learned that if we could up our game in VOTEC educating programs geared to the aerospace, I didn't realize you didn't need to be a rocket scientist to work for NASA. NASA needs 1,000 employees right now. So if we're bringing that convention to New Orleans this year, I'll be inviting all the VOTEC educators in the state there. We'll be sitting on a panel to see. St. Bernard's got a great project, program, but we need to expand that. And every state that has aerospace is getting investment from private space companies. We don't have that yet because we've got to up our game and training these at VOTEC colleges, the programs that these kids can get out and be ready for a job. So if we can do that, we can attract private space companies that are now in Austin, Alabama, all these states that have space industry. So this is something I started 4 years ago, traveling around, learning what these other states are doing, and I'm really excited to work with the new economic development director that Jeff Landry put in place to make sure they work with us to make sure that happens. It's a whole new industry that's growing that we can surely play a part of using Nassau here in Louisiana to expand it.
Let's jump back to economic development. You're seeing lots of changes across the board in Louisiana legislature and lots of policy shifts, and many of these echoed and encouraged by our new governor, and I think many of these with the goal of creating a different Louisiana with jobs and opportunity. With everything you've seen so far, what are expectations around potential job growth and creating and fostering an environment that is better than what we've seen?
Well, I'm really encouraged that the legislature and the governor is leaning forward. We've got a lot of work to do with some of the legal laws, also with some of the tax structure. But I really think we've got a great opportunity. You know, the litter, the crime, everything plays into a business's decision. I remember the president of Nissan many years ago called a press conference in New Orleans East, and everybody thought they were going to locate that plant there. And he said, we've decided to go to Jackson, Mississippi, because of the filth in this area. I can't ask my employees to locate here if y'all don't care about keeping your area clean. And I was in private business back then, and that stuck with me, that we can do so much policies in Baton Rouge, lowering making the tax attractive for business, but also cleaning up, making it safe. And people look for the quality of life. Look, me and my wife live in Covington now. 2 businesses just located here because of the quality of life. So everything we can do in these communities to make a quality of life, and people don't want the employees living somewhere they won't be happy. So I think we've got great opportunities all over Louisiana, And surely some of the work you're doing in Baton Rouge is going to help with that.
Definitely a lot of work to do and a lot of opportunity at hand. LT, as we look out over the next 6 months and looking all over Louisiana, of course, getting through a good carnival season, but a lot to do this summer, a lot of that around sports, outdoors, athletics, new facilities going up. Where can people go, and what are those new opportunities around the state?
Well, I think there's so many opportunities to grow the sports tourism with the new facilities across North Louisiana. We've been really working hard to get the Olympic trials because those people stay a couple weeks, and they look at the value of a hotel and the facility, so you won't see those going to New Orleans. But we've had the Olympic trials for volleyball in Shreveport, boxing, golf. So we're attracting those where they fit all across Louisiana, and that market is the sky's the limit. Also, with the cruise lines heading upriver, we now have 2 boats finally that we're getting large groups to go to World Heritage Site, Poverty Point. That facility, we have 2 Viking cruise boats a week now docking, busing people to that facility. So those cruise lines up the river are going to be a game changer for many places that will stop going up that usually we didn't have large groups going to. So both those things, the fair and festival season, we're looking forward to a big season. Drive market is going to be real important this year as airlines continue to have delays. People are getting on the road more and driving. So we're going to be attracting the states around us, reaching out further to get people to drive here and spend time in Louisiana.
Lastly, as an appropriator of state funds and sales tax revenues, always interested to get perspective on, based on last year's numbers, where do we think the next year's numbers will be with tourism dollars and sales taxes? Are we going to grow the number this year?
I think I'm going to go out on a limb, Mike, to tell you, I think we're going to set a new record this year. You know, and we had 5 record-breaking years right before COVID. In 2019, 53 million people left behind $1.9 billion in taxes that you and I didn't have to pay. That's over $1,100 for Louisiana family. In 2022, it was a little over 44 million. 2023, we don't have the numbers just yet, but I'm going on a limb and say this year we're going to break that number both in visitors and tax revenue for the tourism industry with all the special events we're hosting around the state. And I tell you, we're real excited about the out-of-state visitors to Mardi Gras all over Louisiana. We saw people coming to Shreveport, flying into Dallas, and taking a bus over to Shreveport. We had people from Australia and Homer, Morgan City. We've been marketing family-friendly, safe, affordable Mardi Gras in every corner of the state, and we've seen those numbers grow every year. And when you go and meet people, you keep coming back for more. So I think kicking off Mardi Gras in every community around the state, leading into fair and festival season, we're going to see some record numbers all over Louisiana this year.
A lot of opportunity, a lot of tax dollars at play. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungusser, we appreciate you being on this morning.
Thank you, my friend. Stay dry in this weather.
You got it. Folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Louisiana Restaurant Association, the tens of thousands of jobs, the tens of millions of dollars, a lot of money at play, and a lot of food in your belly. Stay tuned for that and much more. You're listening to Echols at 8. We'll be right back.
Talking is what he does for a living. It's Michael Echols and Echols at 8 on News Talk 540. We'll be right back.
You've got a friend in the title business, a loyal friend who's always there. You've got a friend who understands your need for excellence and care. Protecting your interests, tenacious, fast, and fair. Bulldog Title Insurance, when you need us, we'll be there.
Austin Cindric here, driver of the number 2 Discount Tire Ford Mustang, to give you a quick message about tire safety. As a professional driver, safety and winning go hand in hand. That's why we make pit stops. Off the track, I regularly check my tires and wheels too. Stop by a local tire retailer for a tire safety check on your vehicle, or do a quick check of your tire's tread with a penny test at home.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
800-489-8550. 800-489-8550. That's 800-489-8550.
It's time now for Echols at 8 with Michael Echols. Michael tackles topics that affect your family and community, such as the state of healthcare, health and wellness, as well as what's happening in Washington today. And now, Echols at 8 with your host, Michael Echols.
Hey, folks, we're back. You're tuned in live to Echols at 8 as we're bringing the latest on business, politics, healthcare this morning. Lots going on around Louisiana, storms throughout the week, so try to stay high and dry and safe this week. We're going to stay high and dry, though, and fed this morning. We got joining us today from the Louisiana Restaurant Association, over 30 years in a leadership role in the restaurant industry, and, of course, lots of other efforts to consolidate to create an industry that is thriving throughout Louisiana, a huge job creator, a huge sales tax creator, and a big deal for all of you that live, work, and play in Louisiana. But the restaurant industry, a thriving industry. Stan Harris, now the president and CEO of the association, joins us to give us a 5 and out on what's going on in our food and beverage industry. Welcome, Stan.
Thank you, Michael, for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's an exciting time. You know, as we go into the spring, people hope abounds eternal, and we always look forward to things like crawfish season, and this year's a challenging season for the crawfishermen, the processors, the people that are in the pond crawfish business, but Louisiana's going to have its seafood, that's for sure.
It was a slow start. Obviously, with all the dry weather last year, crawfish guys took a little more effort to get the product out of the field or out of the mud, if you will, because there was no mud. Where are we now? I know there's some price conversations going on, and I think we're starting to see some stability get back into that market. But have we gotten back to normal yet?
No, we're not there yet. We probably won't be. The biggest difference for Louisianans is while we're seeing plenty of live crawfish for boils and things like that, the prices are significantly higher. They've come down from where they were at peak. But what a lot of restaurants rely on is peeled domestic tail meat, and that's really at stress right now. A lot of the normally peeler operations, there's probably 75 processors in the state. Very, very few of them are working because there's just no ability to get the margin on the price to be able to put those away. And the other challenge that they face, too, is that you can't really freeze crawfish tails for a long period of time. They're required to use a low-oxygen packaging, and it makes the crawfish tails for us seem a little bit mushy. But that's an FDA regulation, something we can't tackle. Governor Landry and his team have worked really hard to find some relief efforts, declared a state of emergency. From the congressional side and federal government side, they're looking at a package that will help the crawfish farmers, the crawfish processors, the crawfish harvesters to try to get some relief because this is really unprecedented to them.
Well, definitely a big deal. Definitely a big deal to our farmers out there that are trying to make these crops. Let's jump over. There's another topic that's going on in the legislature now, and it's all around shrimp, trying to protect Louisiana's shrimpers and shrimp market. A lot of weird competitive pricing issues going on from internationals trying to flood our markets, creating supply and demand issues for Louisiana shrimpers. Where's the LRA on that, and are we going to see any positive outcomes from some of this policy?
Well, you know, when you look at this, and I'll start off the conversation just by saying that we support our domestic harvesters. We feel like being able to have Gulf seafood, shrimp, finfish, mollusks and oysters and things of that sort, and crab. That's really part of who we are, and it's why people come to the Gulf Coast. But, you know, when we're looking at protectionist type legislation that tries to dominate the market. We have to be cautious about that. One of the things that's constantly said by the members in the shrimping community is that imported seafood's not safe. Well, my view is if we're going to say those things, we ought to be able to prove those things with testing and things like that. We've worked with the Seafood Board and the Lieutenant Governor's office to look at maybe moving the testing on this from the Department of Health to the Department of Ag, who has more robust testing and things. But the reality is that there's a lot of seafood that moves internationally that comes into the United States. About 90+% of the seafood consumed in the United States is imported. And people think about, they go, well, I mean, what would that be? They think of shrimp, but let's say salmon from the northern Atlantic or product that comes in from the South America. When you go to the Mississippi and Alabama Gulf Coast and Florida Gulf Coast, they talk about royal red shrimp. The bulk of those come in from Argentina, and people eat those. I mean, we have an international global market. We'd like to see the shrimping industry more robust and get better prices at the dock and things of that sort. But again, that's going to be driven by supply and demand, and the consumer is part of this as well.
Let's jump back to tourism and what that means for the restaurants throughout Louisiana. Louisiana known for its obviously southern cuisine, but having a robust market bringing people to eat that cuisine is very important. Where are you guys in working with both the Lieutenant Governor and others to try to keep that robust market, and what does it mean as that market grows?
We have a large community of folks that are involved in the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry and marketing that. We work with the Louisiana Travel Association and Chris Landry and their team, and then we work with all of the regional and local convention and visitors bureaus. And when we're talking about that, we're looking at policy, we're looking at tax, we're looking at dollars for promotion, and how that we can build a bigger community to get more people into Louisiana. We know that New Orleans is a big international jumping off point, but we can't get people to Poverty Point. We can't get them to Black Bear. We can't get them to Lake D'Arbonne. We can't get them all across the state unless we get them here first. And so what we've been able to do is build a really strong state park system. The Lieutenant Governor works really tirelessly on that. He's a great marketer for Louisiana and a great partner with us. And we're starting to see that turn the corner. The staycations, the drive-in market and things of that are pretty good. Where we're down is in our urban areas on small corporate meetings and those kinds of things that really help our urban restaurants stay very busy. But we're seeing some improvement along those lines, and we've got some dollars that we're spending to get those folks in there. Our 2019 pre-COVID employment in the industry was about 240,000. Today we're back to about 218,000. So we're not back where we were statewide, but we're better. But a big part of that loss of workers is in New Orleans. We're still about 15,000 down. So the bulk of that's there. Monroe isn't recovered. Shreveport's recovered. Lake Charles is behind a little bit. Baton Rouge is flat and at prior level, but the New Orleans market is still down pretty significantly, about 10% in its workforce.
Let's jump into that topic in a little deeper dive. Inflation, a big concern for restaurateurs. Labor shortages, a massive issue when it comes to having that quality experience. And then going back to productivity and optimizing technology. On those three topics, I'm sure they're front and center in your industry. How are y'all tackling them?
Well, when you think about automation, if you're in the quick service business where you have repetitive tasks, automation is something that you can use. If you've walked into a quick service restaurant, as I was in one yesterday in Baton Rouge, it was kiosk driven and process driven, and it had less employees. So, that's how when you deal with higher wages at times, some technology can be used in automation to lower that operating cost and still continue to deliver the same kind of quality product. When you move into full service and table service type operations, that's not as a big an opportunity for them. So they've got to look at their menu engineering, the things that they offer, the cost of the proteins, the seasonality of it, and things like hours of operation and days of operation, and perhaps minimize some of that so they can stay in there. We've seen product inflation, in some commodities in 20 to 25%. We've seen wage inflation in the same area over the last 2.5, 3 years, and the market is driving that. There's still a high demand for quality workforce.
Another big issue in a very changing environment, food aggregators, the Grubhubs, the different delivery services, and integration into some of the restaurateurs' experience, plus the chaotic cost and commissions. How is that evolving in the restaurant industry, and what are you telling your members?
Well, you know, Michael, when you joined the legislature, we worked and you supported a bill that we did that said that a delivery service couldn't, on their website, couldn't represent a restaurant that they had a relationship without a formal written relationship. And we felt like that was important because there were ghost orders going out, and the restaurateur would have a complaint, and they'd go, well, we don't have an order from this particular service because we don't use them. That has gotten so much better in Louisiana. And as we've always thought, you know, the better competitors, the people that are able to use technology efficiently and price themselves to the market, that's the people, the Uber Eats, the DoorDash, the people like that have really survived in this. We just saw, you know, a former Louisiana company that used to be Waiter file bankruptcy last week. We watched that, plummet after a great soaring occurrence. But that's just the way it happens. You've got to have the capital to do it. And we have a lot of restaurants that are doing their own delivery now to be able to control that cost center. We also have some people that are looking at this that have never gone to it. You know, Olive Garden has never used a third-party delivery. The Darden brands haven't used that. And they feel like when they feel there's a demand enough for it, they'll look at it. They do delivery for private parties and groups and things of that sort, but not that individual. So it's still an area that I don't think they figured out the economic model to make it work and make sense.
Well, definitely a lot of change in that industry, and I know as restaurateurs continue to try to adapt to many of these changes, technology is a big part of that. As you work with your, I'll call them food innovators or restaurateurs, are there new technologies they're adopting in their restaurant from an experience standpoint that make it better for the customer?
Yeah, you know, what restaurants seek and what the guests want is consistency from visit to visit. You know, in many years ago when we were operating Ruth's Chris restaurants, Ruth Fertel, our founder, said if we can give them the same experience the second time, we probably have them as a potential long-term guest. And I believe that's really the case today because people become creatures of habit. They like going to places that they have the consistent expectations, and that's where the innovation comes in, and that creative chef, operator, owner can use the marketplace to be able to find items that might be maybe it's a different cut of meat that maybe not be a strip loin that's going to be the highest price possible. Maybe it's a bavette cut steak, or maybe it's something else where they're going to be able to add that to their menu and create something that the guest looks at as creating some sort of value proposition. So innovation is in there. We're seeing more and more large operations go to customization. And what I mean by that is they're working with a culinary operation that can prepare certain base items for them. Maybe it's a dressing, maybe it's a gravy, maybe it's a sauce. It's not being prepared for anyone else. It's customized to what they do, and that helps them lower their costs, but at the same time it helps them manage the guest experience.
Well, lots of uniqueness happening in the restaurant industry. Folks, we're talking with Stan Harris with Louisiana Restaurant Association. When we come back, nutritious, affordable, sustainable, all topics in the industry, that and more. You're listening to Echols at 8. We'll be right back.
He puts up and he never shuts up. It's Michael Echols and Echols at 8 on News Talk 540. We'll be right back.
You've got a friend in the title business, a loyal friend who's always there. You've got a friend who understands your need for excellence and care. Protecting your interests, tenacious, fast, and fair.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA, is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families, and one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Do you love going on a cruise, or have you always dreamt on going on the cruise vacation of your life? With dozens of cruise companies, who do you call to find the right vacation and deal for you? Now you can make one phone call and shop all the best deals on every single cruise line in the world. You can't get that by calling one cruise line. We have them all, with experts that know the ins and outs of every cruise ship and can tell you the best cruise for your vacation needs. Our cruise packages start at $149. Plus, we offer free internet, free guest packages, and cash back deals. So now is your chance to book the cruise of your lifetime. Call the cruise hotline right now and shop every single cruise line in the world. Here's the number. Call 800-608-1881. 800-608-1881. 800-608-1881. That's 800-608-1881.
It's time now for Echols at 8 with Michael Echols. Michael tackles topics that affect your family and community, such as the state of healthcare, health and wellness, as well as what's happening in Washington today. And now, Echols at 8 with your host, Michael Echols.
Hey, folks, we're back. You're tuned in live to Echols at 8 as we're bringing the latest on business, politics, healthcare, and so much more. Broadcasting from the steps of the Louisiana Legislature in the Echols at 8 studios of Baton Rouge. On the line today with Stan Harris, the executive and CEO of the Louisiana Restaurant Association, as we talk my favorite topic, food, and what our restaurants are serving us up all around the great state of Louisiana. Some of the topics before the break, looking at how restaurants are growing with technology and lots of innovation. But one of those things right now we're starting to talk a little bit more about is nutritious, affordable, and sustainable. The local foods and the local things that are grown and integrating those into restaurant selections. Stan, what is the industry doing now? And we're seeing more of this farm-to-table movement to innovate in the food space.
Yeah, we have to think about the first of all, there's federal policy that makes it a little bit challenging sometimes for these smaller producers. And, we've got a lot of chefs. We've got take like Corey at Parrish up in your part of the state. And you take the higher-end restaurants here that want to be more curated about where their food comes from. And they're working with smaller producers on proteins and vegetables and fruits and things of that sort. There was an article today that I was reading on Axios about a organic citrus farmer here in the New Orleans area. So a lot of that is tied to people are trying to eat smarter. They're trying to know what's in their food, where it comes from. And so the sustainable and local part of that is really, really cool. The other part, too, is that the guest today is far more informed on what they want to consume for the most part. And, John Besh told me a story not long ago that he said, in our restaurants, probably 40% of our entrees served are not the way that we design them because we're having to accommodate somebody's needs for a dietary issue or a spice issue, or perhaps maybe it's a gluten-free option, and somebody's looking at that. I have a daughter who has some challenges with that, and of course, we're looking for restaurant options that give her the opportunity to have the same experience that we do.
Well, certainly changing preferences, one of the big ones. And you're hearing folks talk about this more and more and more. I believe the numbers are 1 in 5 Americans. But Wegovy, Ozempic, the weight loss drugs, changing individuals' habits in eating. What does that mean to the food and beverage industry, and could that impact bottom lines?
Well, at present, most of those drugs, it's an off-label use for the weight loss is a secondary effect, and they use those to lower A1C levels and things of that sort. So people that are diabetic and all that have that. And I'm not a medical guy, but I've certainly seen enough commercials to think about what those jingles put into your mind. But at the same time, healthier living is a thing that people are going to look at as far as extending their life cycle. And better eating, the choices that you make. I had someone tell me that was my cardiologist not long ago. He said, look, those are great things. If you can lose 15% or 20% of your body weight, that's great. But if you don't change how you get your nutrition, if double cheeseburgers and chili cheese fries are what you're going to eat regularly, he said that's probably not going to be sustainable for you. He said it's okay to reward yourself. It's okay to celebrate. But you've got to get to a point where you're getting the nutrition you need, number one. And number two, you're doing things in a manner that's sustainable so that you can manage your weight when you've gone through that type of weight loss, because these medications, as I understand it, aren't created for you to live on for the rest of your life.
Definitely got to be careful with that, but also changing habits of individuals. Let's jump back to LRA resources. You got members all over the state, tens of thousands of employees that you guys represent, if not hundreds of thousands. It's a big industry, but you provide services to restaurateurs and members. Give us a flavor of what those services are and how people can get involved in your organization.
Yeah, probably the best tool and the best benefit of being an LRA member is being able to access our members-owned workers' comp program. It's targeted to the industry. It's focused on getting injured workers back to work as quickly as possible, and you've got the ability to call us. We handle everything from underwriting to claims management to making sure that injured worker gets to the right kind of quality doctor so they can get a very good outcome. Secondly, we're the largest provider of food safety training across the state, and we're one of the top providers of responsible vendor training for alcohol service. So those are the things that we provide that are things that everybody in the industry that might have a bar or an alcohol license might need. But if they don't serve alcohol, obviously food safety, and we'd love to have a chance to pitch our workers' comp to them, because every nickel that's extra in there either goes back in dividend to the member or it comes to us to work on advocacy for the industry. And seeing you at the Capitol yesterday, we're up there. We've got 70 people there for Lobby Day. We're advocating on behalf of everybody in the industry.
Well, definitely a big industry, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in the industry. I had Lieutenant Governor on in the segment before, and we were talking about sales tax generation. This is one of the largest taxpayers or the beneficiary to the state treasury. Can you dollarize that for me? What does it mean for your members? I want people to know how big of an industry this is for Louisiana.
Well, if you think about it just from a sales tax standpoint, Louisiana's restaurants are targeted to do about $14 billion in 2024. $14 billion. That's a huge market. Now, compared to Texas, that's broken $100 billion, or Florida, that's at $80 billion, it's not close. But the most comparable state to us, believe it or not, in revenue for food is Alabama. But when you take that $14 billion, and you multiply that out times the local and state sales tax impact, in many cases it's another $1.2 to $1.5 billion of sales taxes that we collect for state and local government and remit that back to them to help government and to help us all have a better quality of life.
Well, more sales tax revenue means hopefully more roads and bridges to get people here to eat our good food. You guys invest in your young folks. I'll call them apprentices. You have an apprenticeship program. How does that work, and how do people get involved if they have folks that want to get into this industry?
Yeah, we have a multiple number of apprenticeship programs that come through the U.S. Department of Labor and the State Workforce Commissioner. The governor's done a great job picking a new head of the Workforce Commission in Secretary Susie Schoen. She comes from the workforce development side. She really understands how we need to structure these types of apprenticeships and training programs. If anybody has any questions on that, they can reach out to us at the LRA at 504-454-2277. At any time, we can hook them up with our folks that deal with apprenticeship. And apprenticeship is really your training in the structure of a registered apprenticeship. So that's all it is, but it gives us a really good retention tool. We know that retention rates of staff that have gone through apprenticeship is upwards of 90%.
Lastly, in that apprenticeship program, restaurant managers, kitchen managers, line cooks, a lot of training that goes in there, and then some wage opportunities for these individuals, these young individuals. Moreover, when you're working with getting this industry set up and established, community colleges playing a role in this industry to train your best and brightest. How does that relationship work? And if someone's interested, how do they get involved?
I had a meeting with President Monty Sullivan of the LCTS system this week. We spent about an hour and a half talking about just these things. We have articulation agreements right now from our high schools into LCTS programs around the state. And what we're looking at doing is figuring out how we can make that grow, because generating industry-based credentials, but also supplying some tools to smaller operators who may not have a robust HR or onboarding program, or things that we're looking at how we can partner with LCTS around the state and build a more robust employment group and a more robust opportunity for people with these industry-based credentials.
Well, big opportunities. Lastly, if someone's interested in joining your association, being a part of these resources, give me some websites, places to go that they can sign up.
Really simple, LRA.org, LRA.org. We've got a great app they can download from the App Store. It's the LRA app. They can find out a lot of information there. Visit our website or give us a call, 504-454-2277.
Stan Harris, Louisiana Restaurant Association. Man, we just need y'all to keep on cooking.
Well, Rep. Echols, we always need people like you, good, solid, pro-business people that want to serve the rest of us in the legislature. So thank you for your service.
You got it. Stan Harris, Louisiana Restaurant Association. Folks, jump on their website if you want more information. A lot of great resources there. And if you're in the food and beverage business, a lot of great products and opportunities. So we thank them for all the service they're doing around the great state of Louisiana. We're out of time today, folks. We've got a couple of minutes left here in the show. I just want to remind you, you can tune in each and every week on all of our radio stations. Remember, KWLA 103.1 in western Louisiana, eastern Louisiana, 104.7 The Gator, our friends in northeast Louisiana, Talk 540, 105.7 FM, and our iHeartRadio affiliates. Remember, after the show is over, you can also go to iHeartRadio, download the show. You can hear those on the KMLB link with Spotify. That, of course, online for your listening and viewing pleasure. Next week, we got some great guests lined up. We'll be talking to both politicians and innovators. Actually, we're going to bring in some lobbyists. I want you guys to know what the lobbying industry does. We'll break some misnomers and also give you some inside secrets. That's right. We're going to give you an up-close and personal of what goes on in the legislative process. We'll have that. And then some other special guests come on to talk about some of the things going on in both economic development and job creation. Who knows? Maybe even a surprise guest from out of state that could tell us something about our economy and where Louisiana may be going. But we'll get to that the same time, same channel next week. Until then, we appreciate you joining us here on Echols at 8. We'll be on each and every week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Be good, be safe, and avoid all the crazy weather this week in Louisiana.
You've been listening to Echols at 8 with your host, Michael Echols. For more information on Echols at 8, or for more news, commentary, and recent shows you may have missed, visit michaelechols.com.